Hi, Brother Wilson. This is my lesson plan for charity and teaching football. Just to start off the lesson, I'd like to establish the zone of proximal development by having a position and a roles quiz to see if she can name them and what she knows about them. I just want to use this to kind of start as my base so I know where I can go from and what I need to expand on. This will also help me to see what her self-efficacy and concept and esteem are when she's applying to football, because I know that with those it'll change in different circumstances and different situations. And I also want to see what her personal theory is about football, what she already believes and views of it, and how she can and how I can work with that with her. I'd like to help keep her trait anxiety low by making it an open environment where she feels as safe as possible by asking questions. With me, there's no dumb questions with football. It's a passion of mine, and I want to show and share and help her to learn about it just because of all the social aspects it'll have in high school when she gets there with her friends and on Friday nights. I also want to create an atmosphere of low state anxiety um, by not having the room or my lesson cluttered with a lot of different things that'll take her attention away from what I am trying to teach her. Um, I also want to try to avoid debilitating anxiety, as that can be something that really hinder the lesson. I just want to make sure. I feel like if I can control the other two anxieties, that that it'll keep it away from the debilitating anxiety, and we'll be able to finish the lesson. I'd like to create facilitating anxiety by giving a scenario that could benefit her from to show her the benefit of learning some things about football. Like one of the scenarios that I'd like to come up with as kind of a moral dilemma is that she'd be at a game um, and knowing some basic information about football. Someone, whether a friend, fellow student, someone else in the stands, would ask her, be asking a question about what happened or who did what, and whether or not she would feel comfortable and whether or not it's her responsibility to help clarify those issues. It's something that I feel like if you have the information and someone asks about it, it is your moral dilemma, or it is your moral responsibility, if the person is willing to receive that, to share that information. I'd like to use game film in my lesson since I coach the freshman team at her junior high. She'll know a lot of the kids on the team, and I feel like that will also help with making her more comfortable in the lessons if she can recognize certain people, certain players that she can see around the school and knows on a personal level. It'll make it um, a little bit more engaging for her, and it'll be a thing of hot cognition for her as well that she can say, "Oh, I know that person," and it'll give her a little bit more understanding. Um, and then, kind of with that film, I'd use it as a prototype to set up different plays, the different kinds of plays, the difference between a pass, a run, and a screen, just the basics of football, um, and also using correlational features and defining features to define both. And since I have both all those on my playlist for my video film, it'll be easy to transition back and forth and be able to show her what makes what and why it's called a run, a pass, or a screen. And and to kind of help with that, to make it as clear as possible, show negative instances by using different plays, and to help over and under generalizations by making it as clear as possible, and to show different varieties of the same thing of a run play, and just to keep it as basic as possible. I'll be relying heavily on her cueing as I go through this lesson to gain a feeling of where she's at and her understanding, to cover and to make sure that I go back and cover the things that don't make a lot of sense to her, and I can go and clarify those things. Or if she understands something, I can move on from that and go to the next topic. In my teaching, I like to use a lot of informational language because I feel like that is a way for the students to help in their own process of learning. I feel control language is just that. It's controlling. It's got its purposes and its benefits. But for me personally, I feel that informational language is something that I can help engage my students in teaching and learning. And I feel like it can be a better tool for long-term learning. Um, and I hope to avoid failure to retrieve, as this could hinder um, the way that we move on with our lesson. Um, and I can do that by the quiz at the end and see where she failed to pick up something. And I'll also be trying to use this with the films, keeping them engaging. It's something visual, it's something that she can focus on and she can see. Because as we were talking, the different sensory visions have different powers or different abilities to help keep that information in line and get it through all processes of the memory. Um, I will be asking also to help with the failure to um, retrieve is asking for questions and asking questions after the things we've talked about and looking for interference and also looking for any failure to store if she's unable to recall something that we've talked about. Either I taught it wrong or she'd lost attention for a little bit. I need to correct that and fix it. Um, I will keep things throughout the lesson kind of moving to and going back on things to help eliminate any decay that could happen during our time in the lesson. And with that, I feel like if I can keep the lesson challenging enough for her, and on the more challenging side of her zone of proximal development, that she'll be more engaged and more motivated and have more intrinsic motivation than me just pushing her and trying to push something and using extrinsic motivation where she has to feel like she has to make me feel better about my lesson and my passion. And I feel like if I do all these things in my lesson plan that I've talked about, the different concepts that we've talked about in class, I feel like this will be a very successful lesson. And as she's going into her high school years, this will be very beneficial on Friday nights that she can go to the games with her friends and have it be more than just a social gathering. She'll be able to appreciate and to view and to see all the hard work that her fellow peers on the football team have put in to go out and to play, and she'll be able to understand the game hopefully a little better and to understand the rules and the positions, and she can understand when other students are talking about the game, she'll know exactly what's going on. This could also help eliminate a lot of anxiety for her during her high school years. Um, and so I feel like if I follow this lesson plan and do the things that I have in mind for teaching her, that this will be a very successful lesson.